it's Jim from JetsonHacks.com. Today we are going to build the platform decks for RACECAR J. Let's get started. This is a set of RACECAR J platforms. This is how it comes from the laser cutter. It comes from the laser cutter. The laser has already been here. See, you can see where it cut out the lines here. There's no laser here. It's already come and gone. Stop it. You're embarrassing yourself. Get out of here. The first step is to detach the decks. Compress from underneath. To get started, just lift it up. Do the lower deck. This one's a little bit tougher because it has more surface area. Just rip it out. And you want to check to make sure that all of the little bits and pieces came out. This one looks pretty good. This is the bottom. Turn it over. This is where all the residue gathers during the burning process. So let's clean that off. I have here some isopropyl alcohol. You see it's a little bit dirty. Put that aside. The third part is the LiDAR mounting deck. Pop that out. The next step is optional. If you do a lot of RACECAR Js, this is a worthwhile investment. Otherwise, you can just screw the standoff straight into the deck itself. The holes in the deck are sized such that the standoffs are self-tapping. We use 440 standoffs for these. Take a tap and tap the holes for the standoffs. I like to tap these threads over the surface because it's slightly tacky and catches the shavings. These are the 4 holes for the IMU. You want to make sure that you do not put a tap through your hand or your finger. The location of these are a little bit difficult to show because the surface is black. When you tap one of these holes, you want to do it clockwise, or righty tighty. Next, we'll tap the 4 holes for the Jetson. We're tapping for a Jetson TX development kit. I will show this later with standoffs installed. It's easier to see which holes we used. And one more. These taps are meant for metal, so they go through the plastic very easily. So let's take off the back. A couple ways to do this. You can just use your thumbnail. Get underneath the paper, pulled up. Another way to do this is you can use a little spudge. One last go through to make sure everything has been punched out. Looks good. Now we're ready to do some final cleanup. Just use our isopropyl alcohol here. This should get all the residue off. You can see that the top here is a little bit scratched up. That's because Delrin is an industrial plastic. It comes unprotected to the laser cutter. The scratches aren't very deep, but this is just to warn you that this is not like a piano gloss type of finish. It has machine marks on it, which all good robots should have. And this is a LiDAR mounting plate. MIT recommends that if you're going to use a Hakuyo LiDAR, that you use an aluminum version. This is Delrin. We have aluminum versions of this in the store if you're so inclined. Now we're ready to install the standoffs. Let's open up our little package here. These are 440 by 1/4 inch long, 3/16 inch hex male-female aluminum standoffs. I'll put these into a little plastic container. It's a little easier to work from. Since we pre-tapped our holes, we can just screw these in by hand. If you want to clean them, then now's a good time also. So we want to put these on the top of the platform. The basic marker for the top of the platform is this hole here. Since we pre-tapped these, we can just screw in the standoff with our fingers. So that should be a little bit easier to see now. We'll screw in the standoffs for the IMU. These are the standoffs for the Jetson. These are for the IMU. Then we take a 3/16 inch driver and just make sure that they're snug. Do not over tighten them or they will snap off, and they are difficult to remove at that point. Don't ask me how I know that. And those are the standoffs for the top. So let's flip the platform over. This is where we mount the USB hub. We mount it here on this side. And on this side, we mount the electronic speed controller. On this particular installation, we don't use any standoffs on this side, but this is where you would do it normally in the assembly process. The next step is to install the standoffs for the upper platform. These are the 2-inch long standoffs. Take them out of the package. This is a good time to clean them. These have already been cleaned. The registration marks are basically right behind the IMU mounting area. So that lines up there. Then we can see the other 4 holes here. We are going to use some 440 7/16 inch screws to hold the standoffs in. And then we tighten up the standoffs. Before we do that, let's check the fit here. Make sure we picked up the right holes. And they line up. We use a #1 Phillips head screwdriver. Use this little wrench to hold it and just snug it up. And do that to all of them. The next step is to install the electronic speed controller. Let's open it up. If you buy the kit, this is the version that is supplied with it. This is from Inertian Boards. It's called a FOC box, F-O-C-B-O-X. There are 4 mounting holes, and there are holes drilled in the deck to accept that. We mount the ESC using some machine screws. These are 3mm by 8mm. Let's open these up. Only going to use 4 of them. We'll put the rest in a little baggie. Make sure they don't wander away. This is the rear of the car. We want the 3 wires to go towards the rear. We can use a 2mm driver to tighten these up. In order to mate with the steering servo wire, we use an extended header. The full kit comes with a couple of them. We only need 1. It goes right in here. And now we're ready to install the USB hub. Let's take our USB hub out of the box. This is an Amazon Basics 7-port USB 3.0 hub. We just need the hub itself. Inside the box, there's a power supply for it and a short USB cable. There's some protective wrapping on it. There are a couple of ways to mount the USB hub onto the platform. Inside the case, there's a PCB which holds supports. To remove the PCB, you would remove these rubber feet, and underneath that you have the screw access. There are holes in the deck to mount standoffs, which will line up with the PCB board. For this application, I use 3M dual lock tape. So if you bought the kit, you will get this little package of tape pre-cut. Take off the backing tape. Line it up here. Make sure it has good contact. So we want to line it up here. We don't want it exactly on the edge. Space it back about ½ an inch, it looks like. What I do is click it just on the edges, remove the backing tape. We want to make sure that the ports face outward. Press down a little bit on it. Make sure that the tape makes good contact. And we should be good to go. Before we snap down the USB hub, let's run a USB cable underneath it. This provides a little bit of a cable raceway for us. We'll grab a 1 foot. This is a USB 2.0 cable, micro B to USB A. This is flat cable. This comes with the RACECAR kit. Let's plug this into the electronic speed controller. We'll run it underneath the battery power. Then we'll line this up here with our tape. And press it down. Then we can plug the cable into the USB hub. These cutouts in the platform can be used for cable management. Just run a zip tie through here. Okay, let's prepare our LiDAR mount. There are 4 1-inch standoffs. We use these 7/16 screws like we did on the other standoffs. Just for the orientation, you want most of the holes facing this way. Makes this the bottom. You recall from earlier, if you're using a Hakuyo LiDAR, You should really be using the aluminum version of this. And then we can tighten them up using our #1 Phillips head screwdriver. Flip this over. And tighten up the screws. If you already have your LiDAR on hand, of course you want to mount it before mounting the brackets here. But for the purposes of this demonstration. And now we're ready to mount it on the car.